Hi everyone, so today I am giving you a bit of a rundown on the Evolve beta from this weekend. Now you might remember that going back around 4 months or so ago when the Evolve Alpha was happening, I wasn't all that impressed with the game they were delivering. For my mind, the whole thing wasn't hanging together particularly well. Whilst all the weapons felt good and the concept was awesome, there's just too much walking around chasing after the monster if you were a hunter. For the monster side of things, it was just a little bit too much of moving as fast as humanly possible to try and stay away from the hunters, and it wasn't really particularly fun over longer play sessions. Quite nice for a quick pick up and play, but not something you'd want to sit and play for 2 or 3 hours. So when the Evolve beta landed on Xbox One, PS4 and PC, it represents an opportunity to see if the game they're proposing is hanging together any better. And for the most part, it certainly is. Things do seem to feel a lot faster than they were in the alpha. I don't know whether they've adjusted the base move speed of the hunters, but it does seem to feel like you've got a little bit more clip in your pace, as it were. Likewise, the monsters feel a lot more beefy and meaty now. Maybe this is because of having had some time playing the game previously. I've got better used to how the monsters actually operate in the playstyle, but it certainly feels a lot more fun and energetic this time round. Not just a case of keeping away from the hunters, but being a bit more strategic, levelling yourself up at just the right moment, and then instead of, being hunted, become the hunter instead. Literally turn the tables and go after those hunters. Drop their health right down, give yourself an easier run into the final phase. It's all working really rather nicely, but it's on Xbox One that we can really see what the final game should be like. On Xbox One, they've added in a campaign mode. Now the campaign mode essentially is 5 stages with the hunters and the monster. And the idea here really is to have a kind of a linked campaign with a kind of evolving story, I suppose, driven by the outcome of each stage. So for instance, it might be that on the very first mission that the hunters and the monster will be engaged in, they will have to either rescue hostages, rescue survivors I think is probably a better way of putting it, on the planet, or try and destroy as many of them as possible. Whoever wins will get a bonus going into the next match. Now that might be a health boost, it could be damage boost, or a wide variety of different options. They say there's over 800,000 different combinations for each campaign that could potentially happen. That gives a wide variety of different opportunities to create new playstyles whilst you're going through the campaign. A really interesting concept in my opinion. Certainly when you kind of put it against something like Titanfall, which had the campaign structure, but really kind of failed miserably at delivering anything that could be described as a campaign. What we actually have with Evolve is something that actually feels well thought out and actually nicely layered. When we played through these campaign structures, it's really good fun. And essentially what you're dealing with is 5 missions strung together with the same group of players, which is great for friends or great for those pickup groups as well. It all works really nicely, in fact. One of the things that kind of struck me is how it changes the dynamic in many respects between the monster and obviously the hunters. On certain maps, for instance, you'll have to either destroy the monster's eggs, or if you're the monster, you can choose to free the creature inside the egg at the loss of an egg. Now that changes the dynamic on the map quite considerably, because suddenly there's 2 things hunting the hunters, or more. And seeing those hunters actually react and effectively their plan having to change on the fly, it's really, really interesting. This is not quite so much of a rock, paper, scissors shotgun effect anymore. There's just enough chaos here to keep things interesting. Evolve is going onto my buy list. This one does look like it's going to shape up to be some really good cooperative fun, something we haven't really had from a multiplayer game in 2014, despite the abundance of promises from developers. Thanks for watching. Don't forget you can pledge $1 a month on Patreon to help support the Androidizen, keeping us 100% independent. An honest opinion direct from the UK. If you pledge $1 a month, you'll be entered into our prize pool to win cool items from our review bag. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. We love to chat.